Well, we should be starting less than a minute here. So I'm going to go right into the introduction to Rob. So Rob, you'll be first. You give your spiel, and then I'll let you start, Steve. All right?
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll pull over.
All right. Yeah, we don't want an accident while you're on the line.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to watch the insurance guy get into a car accident.
Show us how easy it is to file a claim.
Yeah, exactly. You do it all on your phone now.
Okay. So I believe we're now live. It's 12 o'clock. I want to thank everybody for attending our webinar. Thank you for attending, for being a member of the ESMBA. We are now getting ready to start this webinar. It's don't just survive in 2023, have a plan to thrive. And we have an amazing guest, Mr. Mike White. He is here to discuss game plans and go over some great details that we all definitely need in battling 2023. But before we get there, I wanted to present one of our corporate sponsors, Mr. Rob Zabbia from Allstate. Just wanted to give you the floor, and I wanted to highlight your company because we appreciate you being a member, and we look forward to doing a lot more events in the near future. So, Rob, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Fabian. Hey, everybody. My name is Rob Zabbia. I own the Zabbia Insurance Agency. Like Fabian said, I am an Allstate agent, but we do have other companies available to us. So if you have a client that needs help with their insurance, we can shop it around. And we deal only with A-rated companies, which is really important nowadays. UPC is closing their doors effective March 29th. So now people are scrambling because their policies might not be renewing until later than that. But they were a Demotech rated A company, and they're closing their doors. So we really need to be careful about who's going to be insuring people's homes nowadays. And with what's going on in banking, I wouldn't doubt that the banking companies start tightening them up. We also support you guys with providing CE for realtors. Actually, I'm in my car because I'm going to meet with one of my realtors right now to do a class for one of his teams. And we could partner with you with providing the CE for your realtor partners. And we're just here to help you out. So, if you have a last minute, you need flood insurance, home insurance, condo, renovation loans, we can do the builder's risks. We have markets for all of that stuff. So, and if it's something that we can't do, we'll let you know. And I have friends of mine who I can connect you with if it's something that's a high risk house that we just don't have a market for.
That's great information. Again, Rob is local. He's on the island, close to me in Massapequa. So you want to have somebody in your corner that understands the landscape and can get you what you need. So thank you again, Rob. We really appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Just a little plug, Rob. Appreciate the way you handle your clients, because you handle your clients in a manner that equals the way I like to have my clients handled. And I always appreciate that professionalism. So thanks for your contributions.
I appreciate it, Steve. Yeah, my dad taught me well. We do things the old school way.
That's right. Good for you. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
So didn't want to, not finish the introduction without one of our board members who's going to be reviewing any questions and any part of this whole webinar that you might have a question. Please go ahead and click on the Q&A. I will be reviewing all questions, and then we'll obviously discuss some of the upcoming events with the ESMBA before the end of the call. We have our board member, Steve Probst, who I'm going to give the floor now. Thank you again, Steve, and the floor is yours.
Great. Well, first, thank you all for joining today, and happy first full day of spring. A beautiful day on Long Island. Fortunately, we've had a pretty mild summer, and we had a mild winter. And I was thinking that we would be in a great position to have lots of business going on. But as we all know, we're in a strange time in the business now, and it's going to take a little bit of thinking in order to get through this next patch. And this has been one of the most difficult slowdowns in the industry I've ever been through. And I've been in the industry 38 years now. And I'm an originator. I originate at the table, just like all of you. I was fortunate to rise to very high levels in the industry, and at one point decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I decided to step back, and now I run a branch for a large mortgage corporation, and I originate every day. And I was fortunate enough to work alongside Mike for many years. Michael White was an originator in New York for many, many years. And probably about almost 20 years ago, decided to go into coaching loan officers and branch managers and business owners. And I have to say that he was coaching for our company, and we have right now around 8,000 employees, and he was coaching many of the loan officers in our company, and was responsible for growing a lot of their businesses substantially. And so I'm really happy to have Mike along for this next hour, and hopefully provide you some ideas and thoughts that might help. So Mike, what do you have to say to get us kicked off here?
Well, I appreciate the warm welcome. I'd like to say hi to everybody that's on the call, and hopefully some of you I know from the past, are here, and it's great to, have you guys take the time to be here. I have to go through this and say, hey, yes, I haven't originated since 2001, when I left to become a full-time coach and trainer. And my clients are all over the country. So a lot of the perspective I have may not be Long Island perspective as of like at the moment, but I understand the market fairly well. And I have a lot of people who are, actively engaged at all different levels of the business and all different types of markets. And what, I really want to convey today is try to get people into the mindset that if we dwell in the negativity, if we fuel the fires of misinformation and gloom and doom, we're going to be victims of that. And the fact that, yes, business is not as robust as it was not too long ago, and rates are certainly higher than they were not too long ago, but there is still business being transacted. And the reality of it is, the first loan that I wrote going back to 1983 was 15 7/8 and 5 points. And guess what? People were happy when they closed, and we moved on. So I think if we look at this marketplace, and I know Steve and I will do hopefully address all your questions today, but the reality of the situation is we've got to find positive, active activities and other people to generate value and opportunities, because there are still people buying and selling houses. There are still people interested in the American dream. And believe it or not, there are still people out there refinancing. So let's see if we can't do some things today to help improve your guys tomorrow.
Well, it's interesting, people always ask me, is this a good time to buy a house? Well, if I can't enthusiastically say yes, then that's a real problem, because that's going to hurt any chance of me doing business with anybody going forward. And telling people that this is not a good time, absolutely not. There is no bad time to buy real estate. And the fact of the matter is, we in our branch, we use a language that I love, and that is date the rate, marry the property, and fire the landlord. And at the end of the day, the rate can always be fixed, because we all know that if you buy a house and you've got a 6.5% rate, and they go back down to 4.5 or 4 or wherever they wind up landing, then we get rid of that rate, and you're in a property that you really enjoy. And at the end of the day, think about what a client loses by waiting. They lose the ability to gain equity in the house. So over a year's time, you think about it, it's 5%, $400,000 house, they're getting $20,000 in advancing equity, even though they're paying a little higher rate. Okay, so what? You also are not paying the landlord's mortgage, you're getting tax advantages. There are so many reasons why it's a good time to buy a house that we can, of course, we know right now with the rates being where they are, we're getting less people attending open houses. So there's a diminished amount of multiple offers happening. So there's a lot of reasons to go forward. You agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, I think, the point is it's like everything else. It is now a good time. I think the response, what's the alternative? I mean, if you're thinking about buying a house, then obviously you're not 100% committed to wherever it is you are or whatever it is that you're doing. Whether you're renting or you're living in a house that's not meeting your needs, again, either by size, space, configuration, or location. And so what happens? What's the benefit? And I think far too much has been made of the fact that, well, I'm going to wait until rates go lower. Well, there's no guarantee that rates go lower. Yes, if you can buy the house today and maybe rates do go lower, and as Steve said, you could refinance, but if rates go higher, then you've made a hell of a deal because you've locked in your payment where you need it to be, and obviously something that you could budget because, again, if you're taking the loan, it's matching your payment threshold. And I think that's really important. Again, is there a great time? If you go back to what I believe it was January 8th or 10th of 2021 was probably when rates hit the all-time low, something along that line. Well, everybody in the planet didn't close on that day. And some people closed before and some people closed after. And there's still plenty of opportunities out there. It was nice to see the MBA numbers come in this week. Purchases have risen nationally, and inventories have risen nationally. Again, all markets being specific, but there's some positive information. And I think we've got to just keep looking at what are the positive messages, what's the positive why behind the outcome. And if we can do that, it not only makes the customer more comfortable with the process, it makes our job much more enjoyable.
Yeah, they said this morning on Business News that there was house sales were up over 14% in the last month. So that's good to hear. And I think if any of you listened to Barry Habib, I happened to just be in a presentation of his. It was an hour-and-a-half presentation this past weekend. And he's talking about May 10th is going to be a big switch to where we're going to see significant change in the direction of rates and the way business is going. That we'll see a pickup and it will start to improve as we get into the summer. So he's saying, stay ready, folks. May 10th is going to be the switch. And I will tell you, for any of the new originators on this call, what you need to understand is, the industry has its times where we go up and down, and the thing is to stay balanced and to find wise counsel. People who have been through it before, if you're a little bit nervous, feeling uneasy about it, seek wise counsel. People in your realm that will help you change your thinking a little bit. Mike and I used to work for a guy, his name's Dean Hartman. He's still in the business, and he was significant in helping us think differently. And that's what you need. You need somebody to push you off and tilt you to think a little differently. Think outside the box and read, constantly read, find things to change your perspective. And certainly all of you should be watching CNBC or Bloomberg. I watch CNBC mostly between 8 and 8:30 in the morning because that's where most of our industry information is laid out. But Mike, in today's environment, most of the way technology is being used, real estate agents aren't in their offices anymore. And they come to their offices for meetings and things, maybe to meet clients or something like that. But most of the time, It's just the front desk that's there and they're empty. So what would you say is a good strategy for people to start getting in front of real estate agents and understanding, what they should be talking about?
Yeah, Steve, I think that's really a great question because it has morphed a lot, right? Whether it be COVID or just the general environment, people stopped going to the office, they stopped congregating. In different parts of the country, we're seeing a little more of that, people coming back together and being more centralized because they realize the value of having that group together. You mentioned Dean Hartman before, and Dean was one of those proponents of having those sales meetings and bringing the teams together and always having something of value, always having something positive to bring to the table so that we could share in those conversations. And I think when it comes to getting in front of the realtors, I think what has to happen is all realtors are not created equal, right? We have to look at this and say to yourself, who are the targets? Who are the people that I do want to get in front of? Who are the agents that are the people that I would be interested in working with? And that can come from any number of places. You may have had prior experience with those agents. You may have had friends or family members have prior experience with those agents. You may just recognize them from seeing their listings or.
You're right about, understanding who you want to do business with, right? And targeting those people. But a lot of newer folks in the business, they get scared and they go, oh, they'll never want to do business with me. And you know what? When I was a new loan officer going through, those paces, that's true. I used to have that same fear. And there's no difference between me and somebody who just started in the business a few years if they think outside the box and add enough value to a realtor. So you have to think through those things. What is the value that you could bring? And, then it's creating the relationship so that it's foundational. That relationship has to be rock solid. And I know one of my realtor partners, I'll say who she is, and she's the #1 Coldwell Banker team in New York State, and her name is Gail Carrillo. And Gail and I have a relationship that it would be very hard for somebody to break. And yet there's times where she'll come to me and say, hey, this person brought this to me, or this person brought that to me. And, we talk about it. And there is going to be a day where, I get knocked off the mountain, and that's okay. That's part of being in the origination business, and it's part of keeping you on your toes and being on your game. But just showing up to somebody and saying, oh, wow, you're an amazing agent, and I heard you're the #1. How do I earn your business? Well, the minute that comes out of your mouth, they're not going to do business with you. You have to bring something that says, wow, can I hear more about that? A thought process or something unique about what your company's offerings are to make them want to do business and you're bringing massive value to them.
Yeah, Steve, I think that's critically important, is understanding that if you don't have a plan, if you don't know where you bring that value, if you don't have an idea, if again, even with that agent, having these conversations about what kind of business they're interested in, what kind of business do they want to attract, what are they doing to generate those opportunities, and how can you help in a way that's meaningful? Steve's used the word a few times already. I'll use it before the day is over, but it is a value-based environment. What are the strategies you're going to do to help that realtor secure that next listing? What are you going to do to help that realtor secure that next potential qualified borrower? What are the things that we're going to do to provide value to our clients or on an ongoing basis? Those are the questions that you have to know the answers to, because let's be honest, going out there and saying, my company's got great rates and my company's got great service, that you're just spewing nonsense, because nobody goes out into the marketplace and says, my company stinks and our rates are terrible and we can't ever get a loan closed. Everybody says boilerplate information, but if you go out there and you can differentiate yourself, and as our good friend Steve Harney used to say religiously, 10% different is 100% better. What are you going to do to help that agent generate that next opportunity? And if you don't have the answer to that question, you probably ought to find it before engaging in the conversation.
And that's absolutely true. And Dean just sent us a message in the questions and answers, and he's right. He said, if you, as a loan officer, you can't help the agent increase their business, then you're really vulnerable. And it's very true. There are several facets to a relationship with realtors, and thinking it through is so important. And understanding that each realtor values something different, and just getting to know your realtor, and it's really something that you need to invest time in and research, and try to find something out. So when a loan officer finally, let's say they land an appointment, with a realtor, what's their next step, Mike?
Well, I always tell you, be prepared. You don't want to go into this blind. Know something about the subject matter, right? What kind of business does this agent do? Are they more on a listing focus? Are they more on a buyer focused? Do they work specific areas? Or they work specific types of property? Do they have certain interests that are out there? Today, it's really easy to find out a lot of this information between readily accessible data that you can find in the marketplace plus social media. You can really extrapolate a lot of information about that particular agent. You may not need it, but it's always good to have as part of your mindset going in there. This person may gravitate to waterfront properties, or they may deal with first-time home buyers, or they may be focused on different types of construction or different types of markets, condos or single family residences, etc. Knowing that stuff going in there helps you go in with a mindset is, what can you deliver to that person to help them? What can you do to be somebody who can help them generate opportunities that they're looking for? Because again, as Steve said, and as our former boss Dean said, if you're not providing value, if you're not helping them generate opportunities for the both of you, then you're really just the same as anybody else. And let's be honest, that ability to differentiate yourself is critical, especially when they know you're working just as hard to help them generate an opportunity as you are for yourself.
As I said before, I had the wonderful opportunity to sit in one of Barry's presentations last weekend. So I'm going to give you a little inside information on this call. And for those of you who don't subscribe to Barry Habib and his MBS Highway, I think you should rethink that real quick, because he and his team just acquired listing reports. And he's taking that whole thing and merging it into MBS Highway. And already MBS Highway is an amazing tool to have in your tool belt. And now with listing reports, you're going to be able to pull up all the information as to what a realtor is doing in their business and how much business they're doing, so that you understand, is this a newbie? Is this somebody who's in the mid-tier, or is this one of the top whales in the industry? And you need to know that before you meet with somebody like that. I have a program that I use so that I can look up any agent and see what their business is. And now I'm going to switch over to listing reports. And the funny thing is, now you're going to be able to see through that service what a loan officer does in business. So it's going to be something worth spending a little bit of money on and being involved with. And it's pretty reasonable to be to get that program. And look it up, MBS Highway. I highly recommend it, and it'll give you a lot of value-added propositions to help at the table with the loan officer. I'm sorry, with a realtor. But you really don't want to just show up and throw up all over a realtor, which is what a lot of loan officers do. You know, how do I earn your business? That doesn't work today. Don't think that way. Think about them. It's not about you. Think about them and what you can do to help their business. And there are lots of ways to figure that out. So I encourage you to look at the opportunities that are out there. How does a loan officer know what an agent's doing in business? That's really and is it smart to deal with newer realtors, Mike?
Well, I don't think you can go wrong in either direction. I not only enjoyed working with veteran realtors who had been established in the marketplace, but I also saw the value in working with, you know, brand new ones. Steve, you know, back again, we used to work new agent training in years gone by, and we'd have classes of 30 or so realtors in there, and, you know, we'd be sharing with them, you know, the aspect of the mortgage business and various things.
Business planning and, you know, all sorts of things that we used to do to help, but knowing full well that out of a room full of, you know, 30 realtors, you know, 2 or 3 of them were going to amount to being really good, you know, producers, but you couldn't just look in the room and figure out which one it was going to be. Well, unless of course you were in the room with Denise Buser at the time, who came up and told me right after the class that she was going to be the one that was going to be highly successful. But most of the time you don't know. So you start out being nice to everybody because you don't know where they're going to go. And sometimes all they need is somebody to take them seriously. You know, there are realtors who start out new. They're exactly the same spot loan officers are, worried about where their first deal is going to come from or next deal, and who takes them seriously. And I think it's really important that you pay attention to those people. Do I want you getting bogged down with trying to establish relationships with 50 or 60 people? No, because it's exhausting. But the reality of it is you want to keep a mix, because just like everything else, you know, people come and go from this business. If you've narrowed your life down to 2 or 3 really good referral partners, and one of them decides to leave the industry or retire, you just lost a third of your business, and that's not helpful. It's funny you say that, because I've been experiencing some of that. As obviously I get older, I've been in the business 38 years, you know, so I was only 10 when I started. And I get older. One of the people who I did the most business with in my career, and God, was she a great realtor, did a lot of business. I'm not going to mention her name. Unfortunately, she has dementia, and she's been battling cancer on top of that. And it breaks my heart. But, you know, I've noticed a lot of agents, you know, that are leaving the business now because they've aged out, and, you know, people who just are ready for another part of their lives, and that's okay. But it's really important that from a standpoint of a loan officer, that you're always looking to add to your inner circle. Many years ago, I used to go to Todd Duncan's stuff, and he always said, look at it as a bullseye. You want, if it's 3 rings, you want your 5 or 6 core agents in the bullseye, and give them the best possible service ever. And then the next ring out are your B. Those are the center one is your A client realtors. The next one is the ring is the B, and you give them good service and solid, and keep them close to move them into your A's when the A's move out. And then keep your C realtors out on the 3rd ring. So you always have new stuff coming in and moving them into the A ring. And that's important to realize, that you are going to lose people. for whatever reasons, it doesn't matter. You just have to keep going. And that's one thing, boy, you just can't ever give up. There were times in this business where I just wanted to throw my hands up and say, I've had it. This is, I got to tell you, 2010, 2009, 10, 11, oh my God, it was the worst. And I hung in there, and I'm glad I made it through. There were lots of people who left the business. Some of them came back, but you just never give up. And when you don't give up, people remember that, and they know you're that tenacious person. So, it's important to realize that you got to keep adding to your base. And it's not just realtors. There's financial planners. There's insurance agents. There's all kinds of attorneys, obviously, divorce attorneys, friends, family. But you've got to be out there right now in this industry the way it is. Everybody's got to know what you do for a living. And darn, you should be calling all of your database, calling them and talking to them. And the people that, that maybe want to change up a little bit, start thinking about going with reverse mortgages. And looking at your database to who you might be able to help in that. I spent almost a month studying how to do reverse mortgages, and I'll tell you what, I did one for my mother-in-law, and it basically saved her financial life. And she's passed since, she's passed almost 10 years ago, and that was a long time ago that I did that reverse. But it's amazing when you see how reverse mortgages can help people and the stories that come from them. But there's so much opportunity out there right now in this business that you just can't give up. Nothing comes to stay. Nothing. Everything passes. The good times. So remember that in the good times, that the good times don't always stay, and plan for it, because there's definitely going to be the bad times and the down times. But the bad and down times are what make us stronger and better loan officers and better equipped to face the good times.
Well, Steve, I think you're right with that. And I think diversification of where your opportunities come from is growing critically important. And you named a few of those. And I look and say, just even with recent news, with some of the banking industry challenges and whatever that's going on, some of my clients have steady streams of business coming from small banks and credit unions. Banks and credit unions that either no longer do mortgages, never did mortgages, don't do all types of loans, that their clients come to them and maybe they don't do an FHA loan or a VA loan, or maybe depending upon a credit score or a property type, where you readily can do those loans. Well, you're not a threat to a small bank or a credit union, because many people who are, mortgage bankers are just that, they're mortgage bankers. They're not involved with doing other types of financial services that those banks are looking for. And so just imagine what it looks like if you added one small bank, one small credit union here and there to your catalog of people that you were maintaining an ongoing relationship with. Those things, those 1-2 opportunities a month that you can get in front of, how many of those things can you add just by spending a couple of hours one day a week focusing on getting in front of those people? Do you know the places within miles of your own home or miles of your own office? There are any number of people who are in financial services and no longer doing mortgage loans, despite all types of different types. And you may come across certain things that they'll do in those small banks and credit unions that you yourself don't do, and be able to refer them back. So the reality moving forward with all of this stuff, and Steve is right when it's about getting out in front of your database of people, it's critical that you're providing value back. And one of the things that irks me is that I have loan officers all over the place on social media, and all I ever see from them is mortgage related stuff. And I don't want a steady stream of mortgage related information. You don't want a steady stream of mortgage related information. How are you providing value back to a vast majority of your database if all you're doing is sending them mortgage information when they're probably not going to need you, right now? It's by going out into your community and looking at that insurance professional or that attorney or financial planner or even a product or service provider, a dry cleaner, a restaurant, a barbershop, whatever, be able to give you, some sort of value to put back. Today's day and age, you grab your cell phone and you can shoot a 30-second to 3-minute video instantaneously. You can go Facebook Live from your phone, interviewing a product or service provider in your area, not only getting them out in front of your people, but then getting you out in front of theirs. It just takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of intention to get out there and surround yourself with the best product and service providers that you can find in your marketplace, and then share them with the other people that you are already connected to. Again, it's another way of creating that top of the mind awareness that not only gets you your client's future business, but reminds them that when they're surrounded by their family and friends or coworkers, and they hear that that person is thinking about buying or selling, that your name comes up and they remember to refer you that opportunity. Because I've got clients where 70 or 80% of their business is coming directly from their direct referrals from their database. And that can be one of the most powerful things in your arsenal.
Mike, give us a couple of examples of how a loan officer could help an agent grow their business.
Well, I think the biggest piece here is you got to focus on whether or not, are they a listing agent? Are they a buyer's agent? What are their strategies of getting out and getting in front of people? Like we said, sometimes people are more in tune with some technologies than others, right? And loan officers who are willing to work with their realtors. Steve, you and I remember back in the day working with realtors, and they'd have open houses, and there would never be a chance that one of your realtors or one of mine had an open house where one of us wasn't present, because not only was it there to help them, set up and take down, but it also because we had the opportunity to talk to the neighbors that were around that open house. We had the opportunity to speak to the people that came to that open house. And we also provided a level of safety for that agent that was working that open house. Now with technology, simple things like doing an open house preview on Facebook. Again, Facebook Live before that open house starts, sharing that information with the seller, getting that out there maybe on the Friday before a Saturday or Sunday open house, dealing with the neighbors that are surrounding that property. We've seen in the past, I had realtors that, love the concept of going out there and speaking directly to the consumers or the homeowners that surrounded any of their open houses, but they were reluctant to do it by themselves. Going out there and knocking on doors with them, making them aware that that open house was going to take place at Sunday at 2:00 or whatever time it is. Not only a degree of security, but it also helps them actually do it, right? That accountability partner, just like when I do my coaching calls. I speak to my clients the same time every week for 30 minutes. It's not so much what I say as much as it is they know that we're calling and we're going to review what they did, how their plan is going. What are they going to do this week? How does that fit with the plan next week? Being engaged with those people, again, asking them, what are they looking to accomplish and what's their plan? Because again, as Steve and I remember from the past, we used to do business planning, and that was a foreign concept to most people. It's a foreign concept to a lot of loan officers to do business planning. And every year we did it, we had higher degrees of turnout for doing that business planning event because people realized that it was worthwhile. And again, how many of your agents are not social media adept or don't know how to do Facebook Live or don't know how to share information, don't know where valuable sources of information is coming from or what's happening. The reality of it is, raise your hand and make yourself identifiable as somebody who's willing to help, because all of them would love some assistance in some way or another. And again, it's about showing up and doing the work, as opposed to being somebody who, you know, just sits there and says, well, will you send me somebody and I'll do a good job with them.
Yeah, and there are some other things that loan officers can do. They can help their realtor partners plan homebuyer seminars. And I wouldn't call them first-time homebuyer seminars anymore. It's a home buying seminar. Come and learn what it takes to buy a home today. And let's face it, it's a lot different than when Mike and I started in the business. I started in the business in 1985. You know, things are a lot different now. So, and the millennials and the Gen Xers, they do things differently than us baby boomers. And for the folks who are Gen Xers and millennials in the business, it's going to be easier and easier for you, because the customers that are coming up are those people in that age group. You know, the biggest segment of home buyers now is the 34 to 36 year olds buying homes now. It's a pent up demand for new home startups, and a lot of them were holding off having children, buying homes, but now it's a point where there is going to be a lot of activity. Another thing you can do to help your agents is help them create videos, meaningful videos, impact, you know, and they should be short. Nobody wants to sit and listen to a 6 or 8 or 10-minute video about subjects. It should be a minute and a half with something very impactful and very meaningful. They can help help them set up doing credit seminars. Right now, credit, as you know, if you're below 740, it's impacting your rate. And we can fix people's credit pretty easily. It just needs to have a look at what's going on in their lives and their credit reports, and give them a little bit of time to get that set up and fixed, and incubate that customer for the realtor partners. You can interview them for on an interview podcast, and let them look at become the expert in their market. And as Mike said, door knocking. Door knocking is a lost art, and I believe that if you're going to go out with a realtor partner, it's a great thing. They appreciate the fact that you're there supporting them, and you're pushing them to do something that's outside their comfort zone. In my business planning events, I always used to say, I used to ask people, if I asked you to go out and knock on the door that's across the street from this building and just ask them if they wanted to list or sell their home, would you do it? And I'll give you $50 when you come back and you tell me you did it. And everybody goes, yeah, of course I'd do that. I say, okay. So how many doors do you have to knock on in order to get a listing? And there were different numbers thrown out, 30, 50, 200, 100. And I said, let's just use the middle of that. Let's use the 100. So 100 door knocks, your approximate commission's $5,000 to $6,000. There's your $50 a door. And most people, I learned, if they were door knocking on a regular basis, they actually get it down to where they get a listing in 30 knocks. So, and it creates business for the loan officer, and it's safety also, especially as a young woman who's going up to a door by herself. At least, there's 2 people there, and it doesn't look as obnoxious. But there are lots of opportunities that you can help realtors grow their business, educate them to what technologies are out there, and the different ideas and thought processes. I'm fortunate. I get to see. I was the national sales manager of our company for 4 years, and I got to go across the country like Michael. Michael has gone across the country and saw how many other loan officers do business in other areas of the country. And we think as New Yorkers we're so forward thinking. Well, just so you know, folks, we're not. there are lots of other places in the country that are really forward thinking and are way ahead of us in some of the processes. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, Steve, I think I add one more thing to that list. When you go back, you talked about the first time home buyer seminar. Right now, a lot of people are dealing with inventory issues, especially when it comes to those entry-level homes. Well, imagine if you went out there and you invited you know where the entry-level homes are located. If you flyered those neighborhoods with one of your realtors and invite them to a first-time home seller seminar or a home selling seminar. A lot of people do first-time home buyer. A lot of people do home buyer seminars. But right now, for most of the country, I'm dealing with a lot more buyers than I am people willing to let go of their houses. So how are you going to get that to happen? Well, right now in this market is you got to have that first-time home seller be willing to move on. Well, how is that first-time home seller going to move on if there's not that trade-up house to go to? Well, it's called the top and bottom strategy. You've got to be working the top end of your market as well to find those people at the highest end of their market who are likely to sell their houses to trade down. Because again, it's a giant pyramid of value. People find their own level. Some people never get out of that first-time house. Some people trade up and that's their forever home. Some people go up 3 or 4 or 5 times only to trade down once or twice. But the reality of it is you've got to fire across the entire market, and you've got to be looking at things from a perspective that is relevant, but also different at the same time.
You know, it's interesting how you discuss that with the sellers. I never thought that's a very good perspective, that, you know, people are afraid right now to sell their houses. And, you know, it's something to think about. And not only that, it could be an opportunity for people to really find reverse opportunities in those selling seminars too. What's the best way to show a realtor community that you're a consummate professional who can get the job done? What are some of the ways? Because just saying, you know, I'm the best, I'm this, I'm that, that's not going to help.
No, I think the problem is, you know, a lot of people can say a lot of things, but it really comes down to proving it, right? It's really coming down to either an association. Am I surrounded by people who are consummate professionals? Am I working for a company that's got a great reputation? Have I worked with people in the past, and do I have testimonials from those people that, you know, explain the fact that what the quality of the experience was? I think when it comes to the real estate agent, one of the most powerful things is always an endorsement from another realtor. You know, realtors know their counterparts in the marketplace. They know the people who think like them. They also know the people that don't. They know how they do business. I never had more of a powerful referral to get in front of a realtor than getting a recommendation from another realtor. We used to do meetings where we would put, again, Long Island being a geographically diverse area. You know, we do, going back to the days when Steve and I worked together, we, you know, used to run a dinner every couple of months where we'd invite 4 or 5 realtors to dinner from different areas of what the South Shore East, the South Shore West, Nassau County, North Shore East, North Shore West, Nassau County. And we'd meet in a centralized location for dinner and talk about what's going on in their markets, talk about what they're seeing, what's working, what's not working. That not only did it build a series of really good referral networks, because let's be honest, if somebody's selling a house in Massapequa and they're going to move out to Rocky Point, they're probably not using the same agent, right? So it's important that they built up people in different geographic locations, even with on the island itself, where they had that connection. And it was really important because they got to trust one another as well as trusting you because you were the center of not only creating a value, but important information that they weren't getting anyplace else. And I think that's the big thing here, is proving it, is be there, share with them what your strategies are, share with them your concepts and ideas, share with them what your past successes have been, or at least have them published where they can find it. But above everything else, how about tell the truth? You know, we're in a business that's not often associated with people who tell the truth. And if you just remember one thing that I preach to all my clients, 100% of the truth, 100% of the time. If what's about to come out of your mouth isn't 100% truthful, don't say it. If you don't have an answer that you're 100% clear on, you can just tell the person asking the question, you know what, that's a great question. There's more than one solution to that, I'm sure. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me write it down to make sure I'm 100% clear on what it is that you're asking, and I'll come back with all the potential solutions to that challenge. Sometimes just being honest with people about being honest with people is all the recommendation you're ever going to need.
And all I can say to any of the loan officers that are new, protect your reputation fiercely, because I'll tell you what, there are lots of people who will try to wreck your reputation. And I know for people who've come at me in the past, they tried to wreck my reputation. It couldn't be done because people know who I am and know that I am a consummate professional who never, ever, ever walks outside the box of being truthful, honest, fair. And that's really what you want to be. And that's how you stay in business long term, is being fiercely protective of your reputation and making sure, like Mike said, that you're being surrounded with people who support that. So, Mike, the other thing that I think about a lot, and I hear this from different loan officers, is they randomly go into open houses that agents are holding to introduce themselves, to try to get to know them. What do you think of that strategy?
I don't think it hurts. Again, I think if you're going to go to open houses, you know what the open house is. You know the location. You have an idea of the property and the sales price and whatever. So if you're going to do open houses, and again, I enjoy it, and I've got a lot of clients that enjoy randomly going to open houses, number one, but also meeting the people that were there. Do your homework and due diligence before you go. Know what that property is, know what the financing might be on that property, understand what the potential trade up, trade down consumer might be for that particular property, and know full well that you have an opportunity to meet with that person. And let's be honest, a lot of times the agent that's working that open house is not necessarily the listing agent. So you do have to be prepared for the fact that you may be getting brand new rookie agent that's babysitting an open house that's petrified. They've not been through that experience before. They're worried about what's going on. And sometimes just being there and reassuring them of, just being there comfortable and confident that they've got, another human being there is a big influence. But if you do run into the listing agent, it opens the door about what was, this is a great, what was the open house strategy? Did you do an open house preview on social media on Friday night? Did you do an open house preview, an hour before you had the open house? Did you speak to the neighbors prior to the open house and letting them know when the open house was? If you haven't done these things, I'd love the opportunity to work with you on doing those things prior to your next open house. See, again, offering strategies and offering yourself to help them execute that strategy is a lot of times just such a huge thing than paying for food or handing out water bottles or whatever else a lot of other people do.
Well, one thing I will warn loan officers about is if you are going to an open house and you see a lot of people coming and going from that open house, the agent doesn't have time to talk to you and doesn't want to talk to you. So you've got to be very careful if and when you decide to execute that strategy, that you do it in a way that is going to make you in a good light. And just showing up and walking in and interrupting an open house that's actually busy and they don't have time to talk. But as Mike said, go in there understanding the property and what financing might be helpful. Let's say it's a house that's a fixer-upper, and maybe you can go in with a rehab loan strategy. Whatever that it may be, you've got to come in again, adding massive value, and not just showing up and throwing up all over the client. So just be real careful when you use that strategy. How do you suggest loan officers win over realtors who expect some form of payout from their referrals?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite questions, and I used to just answer it with a quick reply that says, I don't try to win over criminals. So, the reality of the situation is if they can't make enough money with real estate, then they're probably not an interest to me to deal with that. It's illegal. It can't happen. We all know it does happen, right? And it's happened forever. It will continue to happen forever.
Well, in today's situation, now that loan officers have licenses, I always say, look, I'm just not interested in having my license in any way being put to question, and you shouldn't either, because you have a license as well. And if you break the law, you lose the license. You can't ever do business again. And I'm not doing that. That's how I feed my family. So that's typically how I answer it. I think there were a couple other things I wanted to talk about, but we're not going to have enough time. We're getting down to the end. We're at the last 4 minutes here. I did want to just talk about the power of social media and the outreach, but that's going to have to be another program. But I do want to just add one more thing, I think, to this discussion, and that is when you're looking to position yourself in the community, a really good way is using an very old biblical prophecy. If you help enough people get what they need or want, then you automatically will get what you need and want. So think about, how can I go out and help people? How can I go out and make myself visible in the community in a way that's meaningful? And there are so many opportunities to do that right now, whether it's bringing you, and maybe you have your team to a food pantry and donating a little time there, or donating some time to Habitat for Humanity, or doing stuff in your church or your synagogue. There's so many different ways to make yourself visible in this community and in an outreach way that makes you a part of the community and the fabric of the community in a different way. And people get to know who you are, and it becomes very meaningful. And I will just say this, my team and I gave a home away to a veteran, a mortgage-free home. And that whole ordeal took over almost 6 years. And the journey was so much better than the end. And all the people that we met and all the people that helped us, and it was an amazing, amazing journey. And I just really want to encourage people to go out and give back to the community you serve, and you'll see that you will be highlighted in a different way. Any parting thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, you're right on, Steve. I just think that, I know we tried to cover a lot of things, and I know we weren't able to go too deep on a lot of stuff. So you guys got questions or comments? If you're looking for some of the strategies that I talked about, you can go to my website, which is imtcoaching.com. There's a lot of free content on there. There are a lot of 30-second to 3-minute videos that explain what the content is and what the strategy looks like. And for those of you who, want to do that, or if you have questions for me, and if I can be of any help, because again, you guys are special market to me. That's where I grew up. It's where I got my start. I'm an email away, mike@imtcoaching.com. I may not be able to turn that email around in 5 minutes, but I will respond within a business day to whatever you send. And you know what? I'd love to help anybody that's part of this. And, like I said, don't be afraid or ashamed to reach out and ask a question, because I had people help me along the way. Steve and I both know the recent passing of Greg Frost was very disturbing to both of us. Greg was a great mentor and a great friend, and somebody we're gonna miss. But without his generosity of putting his hand out and helping people forward, neither Steve or I would have ever amounted to what we've been able to accomplish in this business. And that's part of my age, that I look at and I say, you know what, I do this now because the next generation of people are out there, because people are struggling, and there may be something I can say or do that'll help. And
I just
you know
want
what, that's what you got to do.
the IMT stands for Improve My Tomorrow, and that's what we're all looking to do, improve my tomorrow. Michael, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and doing this. It was a personal favor to me, and I really, really appreciate it. I hope we added a lot of value to all the people that were listening today, and I hope we'll do some other stuff like this soon.
Look forward to it.
Thank you again, gentlemen. I want to thank Mike. Thank you again for being on our platform, ESMBA, and another great coach, Steve. I really appreciate all the insight. Like you said, in this world, we have to go back into our repertoire of all habits and make sure that you go out there, knock on those doors, and stay connected with the realtor community. So I do appreciate you. Just wanted to give some highlights. We will have a lunch and learn for credit. We have Melissa from CIC. She's going to be discussing that next month. We're going to send out a save the date, and we have a bowling event coming up in June 6th. So look out for that email. Again, thank you to all the members, to the board members, everybody to put this great event on. And again, we look forward to seeing you at our next event.
Take care.
Thank you, folks. Take care.